Tuesday, an incredibly busy day, a day of conflict. Jesus had entered Jerusalem triumphantly, stamped his authority by cleansing the temple, calling it his Father's house, thus declaring his divine sonship. And on Tuesday, the religious leaders challenge him, grilling him mercilessly with questions. The pattern of these 3 days is a powerful lesson for us. Having declared victory, we must know what is our authority for doing so, and we must be ready for conflict. Rightly understood, conflict increases us. We go from glory to glory. 2 Corinthians chapter 3, verse 18. Isaiah 52, verse 13 says, "My servant shall grow wise, exalted, extolled, and very high." Commenting on this, the 800-year-old Jewish text Yalkut Shimoni says, "The Messiah will become greater than Abraham our father and Moses our teacher and the angels." He becomes greater. There is constant increase. Unlike us, Jesus does not become greater in himself, but our perception of him increases, in the way that we describe the sun as shining brighter at midday rather than the morning. The sun hasn't changed, our perception of it has. The glory of Jesus that we perceived at his first coming will not compare with the glory that we shall see at his second coming. Hence, of the increase of his government and of peace, there'll be no end. Isaiah chapter 9, verse 7. God's kingdom will be dynamic, increasing throughout eternity, and our perception of it will intensify. He is creative, dynamic, exciting, refreshing. I've included a link below this video to a song by Paul Wilbur that captures the wonder of God's ever-increasing glory. Jewish literature speaks of the Or Mashiach, the light of Messiah. It's the light of Genesis chapter 1 verse 2, when God said, "Let there be light." It flooded everything and was said to be hidden under his heavenly throne after he made the sun, moon and stars, awaiting the Messiah. It's taught that when Satan saw the light, he trembled and fell down as though dead, because he recognized the light that would destroy him at the end of time. Jesus is the light of the world. After this day, this Tuesday, they will be afraid to ask him any more questions. Now, the conflict is fascinating and it's revealing. Jesus he is, the man of vision par excellence. He came from heaven with a vision. Nothing was ordinary to Jesus. The religious leaders were the opposite. They reduced everything to the mundane, to this world. In the words of Paul, their thinking was unrenewed. And the result is conflict. Ever since Cain killed Abel, there has been conflict between the spiritual and the mundane. For instance, they ask, should we pay taxes to Caesar? Matthew 22 verse 15 following. It's a trap, of course. If Jesus answers yes, he'll have trouble with the Jews. If he answers no, he's got trouble with the Romans. But neither possibility bothers Jesus. His mind, as always, is on the sublime. Give me a coin. Whose image is it? Caesar's. Then give to Caesar what is Caesar's, and to God what is God's. As the coin had borne the likeness of Caesar, so we human beings bear the likeness of God, and therefore we owe him allegiance and thanks and obedience. Profound theology taught in a hostile atmosphere, using of all things a Roman coin. Only Jesus could do this. The conflict was between heaven and earth, the heavenly and the mundane. Vision in conflict. And our perception of the glory of Jesus increases in the process. Now here's another example. Whilst Jesus was in Bethany on this day, an unnamed woman anointed his head with expensive ointment, perfume, and was criticised by some present for wasting valuable perfume. You find it in Mark chapter 14. Jesus not only defended her, for her action, but he elevated her act into the heavenlies. Let her alone, he said. She hath anointed my body beforehand for the burying. Wherever the gospel is preached, that also which this woman hath done shall be spoken of for a memorial for her. Her act was prophetic, even though she was unaware of it. When a person loves Jesus, their acts have an infinite potential. Jesus was no stranger to conflict, whether among friends or enemies. It was all the same to him. We must expect conflict. The enemy will not permit vision or inspiration to go unchallenged, but he'll attack it with the mundane. Whether a miracle, we're talking about a miracle of a blind man seeing, or a rainbow, or the dew sparkling on the grass in the morning. The enemy says, it's all just a product of natural causes, nothing wonderful, nothing to see here, move on. Yes, all that vision and fanciful thinking, it's okay, but it doesn't work in the real world. Let's shine the harsh light of day on your lovely vision, and so on and on and on. Jesus' triumphal entry relates to the vision that we received when we got the inner victory, and we shall be called on to answer by what authority we claimed victory, and we must be prepared for conflict. It's a pattern, you see. And we mustn't be fooled into thinking that spiritual warfare is always dramatic. It usually isn't. That's part of the test. Jesus was challenged about paying taxes. It doesn't get more ordinary or mundane than that. Now, we may well find the same, needing to maintain our vision during everyday disagreements with people, the daunting antiseptic smells within hospitals, the unpleasant letter on the doormat, and so on. Spiritual warfare doesn't always look like spiritual warfare. For we do not wrestle against flesh and blood, but against principalities, against powers, against the rulers of the darkness of this age, against spiritual hosts of wickedness in the heavenly places. Ephesians chapter 6, verse 12.